when someone looks at an elite athlete or a pro athlete or a very high performing athlete, sometimes people don't know the story behind the drive, the ambition, the hard work. There's a reason why. In the athlete world, people don't know the story many times behind the athlete, the man or the woman, and they see the TV and they see them draining a three or a game-winning shot, or they see a great effort, but the team came up a bit short. But they don't know that that athlete stayed there that night afterwards because they missed a free throw that cost them the game, that they're out there doing another 50 or 100 free throws after the arena has been closed out, or that something happened in their family that really defines them. No one sees that. No one likes to go through adversity, challenge, strife, obstacles, setbacks, failures. But ultimately, we all know that's when you're most refined and defined.
Work, it all speaks for itself. Grinding in silence, ain't nothing to tell. When we step on the court, we gon' bring it to light. And we stop and pop like we caught it a light. Stop asking what's wrong with me. You already know there's a dog in me. Yeah, there's no stopping my focus, man. Make sure all my people gon' ball with me. Yeah, I came to compete, I'm a dog with it. Yeah, I came to compete with my paws in it.
Hey, what's up, CTA family? Welcome back to the Compete Mentality Podcast. The Compete Mentality Podcast exists to motivate, educate, and inspire you guys to compete. Our definition of competing is doing what God calls you to do, even when it's hard. And today I am so pumped to be on the podcast here with the amazing, legendary guest, but I'm also in the barn of dreams here. We're in a barn in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. We have listeners all across the nation right now checking it out. You may even hear a little bit of farm noise background going on right now as we speak, and that's just part of it. And we're excited to be here. But our guest today is very, very special to me, very special to my heart. He's actually my coach, one of my actually three coaches that I have. And for those of you listening, like, don't underestimate the power of a mentor and a coach. Who's your coach? And I'm here to introduce truly one of the world-renowned coach, best in the world, Todd Durkin. Todd, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. I could go on and on about your accolades. World-renowned coach, author, trainer of Super Bowl MVPs, Heisman Trophy winners. I'm just super excited to have you on the podcast today.
Man, Jordan, what an introduction, man. I'm fired up just listening to you. So thanks for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here and share. And I love seeing what you're doing. I love that you're in the barn right now as we do this. I'm getting goosebumps just, seeing it. I don't know, most people are probably listening, but I'm seeing you there in the barn. You got hoops in the background. Makes me want to play some basketball, baby.
Hey, this fall when you come visit, we're going to get a little one-on-one here. How about that?
You ain't kidding. Absolutely. You better watch out. I got a little lefty underhand scoop shot that you don't know about now, Jordan. Yeah. Go back to those high school playing days, man. Remember my pops taking me in the driveway and making me do that thing, like, tying my right hand down because I was righty. I got really good at proficient at my left underhand scoop shot. So you're going to have no idea when I come in with that little move. You're like, what the heck, TD? What? I didn't know you had that.
Hey, Pops knew, man. Pops knew.
Yep. Be ready. You better be training for it. You better be ready.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. TD, I'm excited to come visit you here in a couple of weeks. To kick off our conversation, this was a question from my wife. So for a visitor to San Diego, favorite restaurant in San Diego, favorite must-do activity while in San Diego?
Oh, wow. So we got two things: favorite must-do activity and favorite restaurant. I'll say activity that must do. Since your wife is coming, you got to go to Coronado. Ooh. Coronado is, it's about 20 minutes from where I live and where my gym is. But that's where the Navy SEALs train. That's where the Hotel Del Coronado is. And you go over this bridge. And once you're in Coronado, if you've ever been, it's like going to a completely different utopia. And San Diego is good unto itself, but you go to Coronado, you spend an hour or two just walking around there. Your heart becomes even more alive. Your dreams get bigger. So I love Coronado, and that's where Chris Foote lives as well, and his gym is in Coronado. So you got to see that. As far as restaurants, now I love eating. I'm a foodie. So I got, we've got
Okay.
the local place, and then we've got, hey, when guests come in, these are a couple of the choices. So the local place, we might go on date night locally in the neighborhood. It's called Yanni's Bar and Grill. Yanni's Bar and Grill, right down the street. It's the best. Yanni's a client of mine. He's a chef. He's an entrepreneur, and it's great. As far as like, hey, you got to go when you come here. If you want to see the skyline of San Diego, Costera. That's a beautiful place, great food. Costera, right near the airport. Poseidon might be my favorite because Poseidon is on the beach, on the ocean, waves crashing into the restaurant, literally, with some of the best food, especially if you like seafood. Poseidon and Del Mar, man, it doesn't get much better in the world than Poseidon. Not expensive, great place, and you're literally just looking out at the beach as you have some good, healthy food. Last one, sushi. I love sushi. So if you're a sushi fan, it's called Station Sushi. Now, let me tell you what. I love sushi. This place, and I've had a lot of sushi. Station Sushi in Solana Beach. Gotta go. If you're a sushi fan, Station Sushi. So I gave you more than one, but I'm a foodie. I like, everything from the local yokel to, hey, we got to entertain some guests. So you got some choices there, Jordan.
Man, we're taking notes as we speak, and can't wait to try those out, and can't wait to visit you. So, TD, kind of as we kick this off here, first off, the Todd Durkin Impact Show, world-renowned podcast. I listen to it every Monday morning. Got my daily dose this morning as I did my workout in. And TD, today, episode 301, was a very, very vulnerable episode. Yep. And for all you listeners, go check it out. Go check out this podcast. This is how I got initially connected to TD. Before I even met him face to face, he had impacted me for years through this podcast every Monday morning, 5 a.m. as I'm getting my workout in. And so, TD, you talk a lot in that podcast about the hard times, some of the inner turmoil. And I think when people look at you initially, they see the FQ10 success. They see the success that you've had as a trainer, training world-class athletes. But I want to take you back to the very beginning. When you started FQ10, how did it start?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jordan. Before I go there, can I just say something about that episode you just listened to? Because you talked about something that's really hard to do for everyone, especially men, is be vulnerable. And I'll be vulnerable here about how I started. But the reason why is I'm calling this whole series called the Reinvention Series. And it's really easy for me because we're in the middle of re-inspiring our brand, the Todd Durkin Enterprise side, which is all the speaking and coaching and all that. And we have a rebrand going on with that, where we're going to be doing even more of what we're already doing. And it would have been really, really easy for me just to share with the world, like, hey, this is what we're doing, get fired up. It's going to help you more. But there's a reason why. And I'm finding there's a lot of people who are reinventing themselves as athletes, as entrepreneurs, as regardless of the season of life that you're in. And when I was praying about it, I was called to really share why. Like, why is all this going on? And truthfully, the last 3 years have been really, really hard. Not in the sense of we put out some pretty prolific products and programs and books in the last few years. But on the outside world, like, it looks like, man, TD's the machine, just keeps going and going and going. But if you've ever written a book or created a program, and Jordan, you have done that, is a lot of times you're creating it as much for yourself as anyone else, because like my God-sized dreams planner, the questions in there are so deep because I'm at the deepest place I've ever been in my life. And as I'm doing soul searching myself and going deeper, and God's calling me to go beyond what I've been doing for the last 20 years, is that scary, man. It's scary to say, you know what, I can just keep doing what I've always done. Or I can really heed that call. And if I don't share it, I almost feel like I'm being hypocritical. Like, I'm being a Pollyanna. Hey, do this. It's all easy. And I really learned a lot from the almost 25 years as a coach. When someone looks at an elite athlete or a pro athlete or a very high performing athlete, sometimes people don't know the story behind the drive, the ambition, the hard work. There's a reason why. And it might stem from when you were, for me, a 5-year-old kid whose parents got divorced, the youngest of 8 kids. And, this work ethic was instilled in me like, hey, if you want to be something special, then you're going to have to work really hard for it. Or a relationship with money and how you change the relationship with money to live in a state of more of, manifestation and attraction versus scarcity. But in the athlete world, people don't know this story many times behind the athlete, the man or the woman. And they see the TV and they see them draining a 3 or a game-winning shot, or they see a great effort, but the team came up a bit short. But they don't know that athlete stayed there that night afterwards because they missed a free throw that cost them the game, that they're out there doing another 50 or 100 free throws after the arena has been closed out, or the thousands of shots that they've perfected in the driveway, as I was joking earlier on, of that, lefty underhand scoop shot that someday wins them the game. No one sees that, or that something happened in their family that really defines them. So I wanted to make sure I don't underemphasize the importance of, I'm like anyone else. No one likes to go through adversity, challenge, strife, obstacles, setbacks, failures. But ultimately, we all know that's when you're most refined and defined, is that when you're going through the tough times. And I don't like it as much as the next guy or gal who has to go through it. But when you go through a painful loss or losses or season, because sometimes great coaches, great athletes have losing seasons of their life. It's how you respond to that. And that season might be truly a season that lasts 3 to 6 months, or it might be a season that lasts 3 years. But it's how you come out of that. And the lessons, when you look back, you can say, okay, I understand now, big man. I get why, and it's going to make me better for that. So I just didn't want to go over that too lightly, Jordan, because this episode series on the reinvention series, I'm finding a lot of people are in defining moments of their life right now. And whether someone's 30, 52, 82, and I got an 82-year-old client, Pastor Jeremiah, like, we're always reinventing ourselves. We're always thinking about, how can I get a little bit better? How can I go deeper? What's God calling me to do? How can I use my platform to potentially impact somebody to make their life even better? So that's why I do what I do. And looking back, now it all makes sense.
Man, that is such a good answer, such a good segue to go listen to TD's podcast right now. It's so impactful. Please go subscribe, like it, comment, and I promise you, episode 301, super, super powerful. Check it out today. Yeah. Go check it out.
Don't listen to it yet. You got to finish this podcast first. Right? Like, don't go there right now. Let's finish this conversation, and then you get a double dose. Then you hop over there after this one.
double dose.
Right.
TD, we have some mindset clients that we coach that are entrepreneurs. We coach a lot of athletes that are just beginning, and the scriptures say to embrace humble beginnings, right? I just would love to hear a little inside story on the starting of FQ10. How old were you? Tell us about all the emotions that you had. I'm even seeing your face right now, man. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is awesome. But just give us a little insight on when FQ10 started and the emotions you had going through that.
It's always fun to reflect upon it, because right now, looking back, it seems so simple. But going through it, man, it was very complex. Man, I don't know what I was doing. I was 29 years old. And long story short is at age 25, my dream was to play in the NFL. I always wanted to play in the NFL as a quarterback. From 5 to 25, wanted to play in the NFL. I hurt my back at age 25, 3 herniated discs, spinal stenosis, DGD, left me motionless on a football field in France playing in the World League. I went through this healing process of about 5 years, Jordan, of trying to heal my own back pain without having surgery. And that led me to live in 13 different cities over this 5-year period and seeking out gurus and healers and coaches and you name it. I was just trying to get out of back pain. And here I was, bouncing from then Europe and then where I'm from originally, New Jersey. And then I was in LA and Malibu, and I was all over the place until eventually I landed in San Diego. And after finishing graduate school, just at the age of 29, I had been offered a full-time strength and conditioning position up back in Los Angeles. But I really didn't love LA. I didn't want to go back to LA. It's why I left there. I was like, this isn't me. My heart and soul just don't feel like we're on fire here. So my wife had been offered a full-time, my then girlfriend, now wife, had been offered a full-time teaching position at a community college the same week that I was offered that job in LA. So it was one of those fork in the road moments. Like, if I go there and she's here, there's a good chance we ain't staying together. Like, I'm in LA. I don't want to start another long distance relationship. So I had one of those come to Jesus talks with myself and with her of how serious was this going to be? Because if I turned that job down, I didn't have another job waiting. I was going to see what was going to come to fruition, and I turned that job down. It was a tenure track position. It was a great position. I was 29, and it would have been a great career, right? As a quote full-time strength and conditioning professor at a college. And for about 3 or 4 months, I was lost. Like, man, good for her. She got a job. But here I am. I'm doing personal training. I'm training some athletes on the side in fields and parks. I'm a massage therapist. I went to massage therapy in one of my off seasons. So I'm flipping up my mattress, which was a bed, to put up my table and work with people. And then one day I did this health fair up in this area 20 minutes north of San Diego called Scripps Ranch. And this health fair was at a gym. And this woman said, hey, do you know of any Pilates studios in this area? I was like, ma'am, I hate to say this, but I don't even know where I'm at right now. I feel like I'm in the middle of nowhere, because at the time Scripps Ranch was a ranch and there wasn't a lot going on. She said, well, listen, I think this Pilates thing is really, really good, and I'm looking for a studio. And I, at the time, was looking to potentially open a very small studio where I could do some training in massage therapy. I want to combine training with massage therapy because part of my healing process led me down this path to even learn Rolfing and structural integration and body work and healing, almost like the Eastern world of medicine meets the Western world of strength and conditioning. And
yes,
and I was doing all this hands-on work along with the training. And I drove around after leaving this health fair, and I stumbled across this shopping center, and it had this country feel to it. I'm like, wow, this is a really cool place. And there was a for rent sign up in the window. And I wrote down the number, because cell phones didn't exist in 1999. There wasn't cell phones. So I wrote it down, and I went to back home and called this landlord and said, hey, hey, I saw the for rent sign in there. He said, what do you do? And I was telling him, but now step back in time. In 1999, small training studios didn't exist. There were only large box gyms. So I told him the concept. I was going to open a training studio where people would come in one-on-one and pay me for the hour, and I'd have training and massage therapy. He didn't understand. He's like, you're kind of like a physical therapist? I was like, yeah, something like that. So, right, because it didn't exist. So, fortunately, that landlord gave me a chance, and I negotiated 3 months rent free, because Jordan, I had no clients, I had no money, and I had no business plan. Let me repeat: I had no clients, no money, no business plan. I'm like, hey, let's hang this shingle out here and let's get started. I had refurbished carpet, refurbished equipment. It was 2,000 square feet of nothing, but 2 treatment rooms and a gym with refurbed equipment, but a heart and soul that was ready to serve anybody. It didn't have to be athletes. I didn't care who it was. If you walked through that door, I wanted to work with you. Well, the problem was, in the beginning, I was in great shape because I was training like 4 hours a day because no one was coming through the door. I'm like, this is a great job. And they're like, knucklehead, this isn't a great job because you can't make a living when no one's coming through the door. And then this woman, Donna Dickinson, love Donna. She's been with me for 23 years now, comes through, and she's a recreational tennis player. And lo and behold, she becomes my first client. Before I knew it, I'm training Donna at 9 a.m. and Kathy and Carter Pease at 10 and Claudia Cohen at 11 and the Wenharts at noon. And before I know it, 6 months in, I'm 40 sessions a week because word of mouth spread quick. And all of a sudden, it started taking off. But when I look back, man, I was just trying to put food on the table, put gas in the car. My beat up old 1987 Volvo, needed some gas and I wanted food. And life was really simple. Didn't seem simple at the time, but I get emotional these days. I still have my office up in the roots, up in where the roots are, because I remember where I come from. And sometimes you forget that road. And anytime you feel sorry for yourself, or you're like, man, it's tough. Just remember, whether that's that 5-year-old kid or that 30-year-old kid that's trying to figure life out, or your 52-year-old trying to figure life out. It's always good to stop and reflect upon the beginnings and the simplicity, but often seem like, very complex as well.
Man, that is so good right there, TD. Guys, wherever you're at, embrace humble beginnings, embrace them. TD turned down something good, a job as a professor at a college.
Yep.
For something greater that God has for his life. And one thing I'm learning as TD coaches me up is he tells me to continually tap in to my unique design. And that's what he did there. He turned on something good for something greater. And he had a peace about that as he went through that, as he kept, it might have been a little scary at the beginning, like he said, but
no doubt. Because here's the self-talk. What am I doing? Like, I could have been making $60K. Again, this was now January 2000 is when Fitness Quest then officially opened. And I'm thinking, what did I do? Like, I have no clients, no money, and no biz plan. I could have been making $60K a year. I would coach in. Life would be easier. I knew that it was the right path, but those doubts, you don't know the end game.
No.
You tap into the whispers, as you said, but you don't know. Like, if you could have that hindsight. But fast forward 3 years, when I look back in 3 years or 5 years or 20 years, it's all going to make sense. But when you're going through the storm and you're really being obedient, it's sometimes lonely. It's sometimes scary, right? And that was me in year 2000. I didn't see the quote success that I was going to be able to create or have in the training and fitness and sports performance world. I didn't see that. It was about survival. Like, just serve Donna, serve the Wenhart family, serve the Pease family, right? It wasn't about LaDainian and Drew yet. I didn't even know those guys yet. It was really, really simple, but seemed so hard.
Man, absolutely. And in our dream season mindset training, we've used the words vulnerability, and we've used the word serve. Just things you're dropping right now. And I know our listeners are eating this up. So this is just God ordained, the words that are coming, flowing from you. TD, I want to, you brought up Drew Brees. Drew Brees, one of my heroes. As a 7th grader, my dad and my brother, we'd pile in the old beater truck to Ross-Ade Stadium, getting in free to the fourth quarter of Purdue football games. You could get in free back then, back when we seeing the comeback against Notre Dame and Michigan State that Drew led. I know there's a lot of listeners here. We're in Purdue country right here, baby. Boiler up, hammer down, hail Purdue. Give us an epic Drew Brees training story.
Man, I didn't know you were such a big Purdue fan. That's all I ever hear about is Purdue basketball, Purdue football. I love it. I can't wait to get out there. It's funny because I've been hearing about Purdue for 23 years now with Drew. And, it's interesting when you get your first break, Jordan. And I know you work with a lot of different athletes, all different levels as well. And that question makes me think, because if I step back and think about how that relationship started into the epic workout, was I wasn't working with athletes the first 3 years. I was working with the everyday Joe and Jane. And all of a sudden, this guy, Vaughn Parker, the starting left tackle for the then San Diego Chargers, comes in. He's got a bad back. Well, hey, that's how my football career ended at age 25, was a bad back. I started attracting all these athletes with bad backs. Vaughn Parker, who in a crazy story on session 1 with me, as I'm doing body work on this table, Vaughn weighed 330 pounds. My table broke in half 15 minutes into the session. Broke in half. Here I am working with this $20 million left tackle. A lot of money back then. Still is.
It's a big man.
Breaks in half. Boom. I'm like, oh my gosh, my first athlete I've ever worked with. Here he is. He just cracked my table. He's on the ground, whites of his eyes looking up, like, TD, what just happened? I'm like, I'm not sure. But Jordan, I had just watched, and I'll show my age on this. I had just watched this VHS tape on Thai massage like a week before. So I'm like, I don't have a table. What am I going to do? Take off your shoes and start to do Thai massage. I'm walking on Vaughn Parker's back. I'm into his glutes, his psoas. I'm doing all this stretching. He's like, this is amazing, man. This is amazing work. I've never had this done. How long you been doing it? I'm like, been doing it my whole life.
That's right.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, he's like, that's amazing. When the session number 1 was done, he's like, listen, can we get you to come down to the training room after our games and do all the post game on Monday and Tuesday, all of the stretching and body work? I'm in with the ATC, the athletic trainer. Love to get you in. Sure enough, the next week, I am in the San Diego Chargers training room, and that's where I met Drew the first time. That's where I met LaDainian Tomlinson, who was the first athlete I actually trained, not just did body work. LT comes in the day after the season ends that year. 3 weeks later, he brings in Drew. Now, I knew Drew because I was a quarterback, right? And that was my dream, just to be a quarterback. This was God's way of bringing me to have a very meaningful relationship with Drew on a lot of levels. Now, whereas Drew now may say I'm a mentor to him, I would say he has helped me more than I've helped him. And he'd probably say the exact opposite. But back then, to be honest, his core was weak. There was a lot of things that need to be buttoned up. Now he had the mindset, he had the drive, the work ethic, the consistency, all of these things that made him great. And we had a long run. Hey, I still train him today just for different purposes, right, than playing at a high level, but he still has that look. To answer your question about like an epic moment, Jordan, while I didn't prepare any answers, what I would say is this, just thinking about it. We have had some crazy knockdown, drag-out workouts. Drew trained with LaDainian for 9 years. Amazing athlete. With Darren Sproles for 11 years with me. With Chase Daniel for 14 years of Chase's career. With Gerald McCoy, overall number 3 pick. Like, Drew trained with everyone. And when Drew was in any session, the session was always better. Drew had the uncanny ability to bring out the best in others because of his mere presence. When it was time to go, it was time to go. Anything happening on the outside world, boom, we got to go. We got to roll. And that look would come in. But it wasn't really a workout that I can say was one of my most memorable experiences with him. It was an experience. Once a year, pretty much every year, we'd go on to the Marine Corps Depot here, MCR dates, where Miramar, Marine Corps base Miramar. It's where Top Gun was filmed. And we would train one time a summer for all the Marines. There'd be thousands of Marines around this football field. And we set this up, love giving back to the military. So we'd go and we would just do our workout on the field. It'd be a field day, and we'd be doing all of our speed and quickness. And there'd be probably 15, 20 plus athletes out there from all different teams and that. And we would arrange it so that after the workout, that there'd be an autograph signing session. So we had a great workout this one day. It was, probably right around the Super Bowl run of 2009, 10, something in that range. And there were thousands of people. When the workout was done, there was an autograph line that I promise you, I'm like, there is no way in heck that we're going to get through this line in any time soon. And it was now high noon. It was July. We're about a week from going to training camp. And we just had this 90-minute grueling field work day. And let me tell you what, when it was all said and done, there was one athlete who stood there and continued to sign autograph after autograph. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. The line is still long. And I went up to him like, D, you want to get out of here, man? He's like, I will sign every autograph of each one of these men, women, and kids because they serve our country. And let me tell you, I got goosebumps at that time. I'm looking at the kids. I'm looking at the kids. I'm looking at the men and women who serve their lives for our country and our freedom. All the other athletes were gone. But Drew was there signing helmets, jerseys, footballs, you name it, until every single person had an autograph. I've known Drew for 23 years. I've never once seen him say no to an autograph. Ever. Ever. And now most people recognize him and they'll typically either want a picture or never did I hear, sorry, no, can't do it. Now listen, y'all know, and Jordan, you've been around the game long enough. You see this. Sometimes you don't feel like doing it. Sometimes you don't want to do it.
Yep.
But when you have such humility and gratitude, especially for the military, but for anyone who's going to actually stand in line for 3 hours and wait for your autograph, that's special. To me, out of all the just crazy workouts, I'm talking just drag-outs. Nothing was more impressionable than that moment right there. That
speaks so much to the character of Drew Brees, and there's no doubt iron sharpens iron, and he was attracted to you, and mental aura, atmosphere, his presence affecting the workouts. I love those stories, but I want to brag on TD here. I went and visited him in Montana recently, and first time I met him, and we've always had met via Zoom. He's in California. So I walk into the room and TD's presence, his mental aura, it's scientifically proven your mental aura carries 15 feet. TD's carries about 50 feet, y'all. 50 feet, because he takes care. His presence is ridiculous. But I'm telling you guys right now, you can do the same. You have a light to shine. You have a light inside of you to shine right now. And you guys have to tap into the whispers, as TD says, and follow your passion and follow your dreams to let that light shine. So TD, the reason your light shines so bright is because you take care of you. And I'll never forget sitting at dinner in Whitefish, Montana. I said, man, TD has a tool that he's been coaching me up called 3-2-1-1-2-3. This is a tool to take care of yourself, bookending your day. And we got a few minutes here before we close, TD, but I want you to, I'm huge on practicality. Like, give our listeners some practical things that you do personally to take care of yourself, to let that light shine 50 feet, baby.
Well, hey, thank you, Jordan. It's all about mind, body, soul, right? Mind, body, and soul. Mind. As far as my own personal practice, I listen to podcasts like yours on a regular basis. They get my mind right. Self-talk. Got to make sure that you're not beating yourself up. If you're going through a tough season, you got some fails going on, get your mind right, hang around with other people who are going to get your mind right, right? And then the last one of that is your environment on the mindset. Your environment shapes and creates your mind. So if you got to change your environment because that'll affect your whole mindset as well. On the body side, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but you got to move regularly. I say motion is lotion and movement is medicine. Whether you're training to be a standout college athlete, a pro athlete, you're a mom or your dad, your grandma or grandpa, you've had 2 knee replacements, a back issue, whatever it is, like find a way to move. Work out regularly. Clean up the nutrition. Like, it's got a cartoon figure on the cereal box. It ain't breakfast on that, right? I don't count. Right. And, do what you got to do. And even in my book, my Get Your Mind Right book, I talk about, from a health standpoint, body-wise, of some of the hacks that I have used and continue to use to make sure that I keep that edge physically, right? That physically, because if you want to change your psychological state, then change your physiological state. When you change your physiological state, you'll change your psychological state. So mind, body, last one is the soul, the spirit. Perhaps the most important one. Well, how do you shift that? How do you tend to it every day? If you're feeling sorry for yourself, well, number one, journal. Like, get all your stuff out and journal. And when you journal and you put your stuff on paper, then just sit there in silence. And that's when you tap into the whispers and you pray. You pray. Because in today's day, you got to have a faith in God, because there's no way you can go through life these days. Even when you have God in your life, it's hard. Let me repeat. Even if and when you have God in your life, it's hard. Without him, man, I don't know how anyone does it. So for me, that's when you ask best practices on that. I break it down: body, mind, soul. And that's what I love to do, like yourself, Jordan, to this day. I don't know if I'm helping 1 or 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000. But to me, it's like every day, if I can help one person become the best version of themselves, then great. I hope, your podcast and your message of what you're doing is the same way. I know that's your philosophy. So, man, that's what I do.
That's huge, TD. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today. TD, before we hop off here, thank you so much for your time. I know your time is valuable. I know this podcast is going to impact a lot of people. How can we find you? Tell our listeners, how can we find you on your platforms?
Well, podcast, the Todd Durkin Impact Show is if you want even more, if you listen to Jordan's podcast here, that my new website, it's coming out here in May. Just go to todddurkin.com. And I love social media. I'm on social media. And if you look at, my name on Instagram at just Todd Durkin, you can DM me, you can message me. If you got a need, just reach out. I love hearing from folks from all over the country and all over the world. So you got something, anyway, I can support you. With Jordan on your team and me playing reinforcement, man, you're going to be buttoned up. So those are all the different ways that one could find me, Jordan.
Love it. TD, thank you so much for your time today and for joining us, Compete Training Academy family. Thank you so much for your time and join us here again this week. I don't take it for granted that we meet here each week. And we know where two or more are gathered in your name, that the Lord is present. I know his Spirit's present in this podcast here today. TD, thanks for joining us. CTA family, always remember that competing is doing what God calls you to do, even when it's hard.
Jordan, thank you, brother. I really appreciate you sharing from your heart. I know what you guys do there at CTA. It goes beyond training. It goes beyond basketball. That barn is a sanctuary. Don't ever take that sanctuary for granted, man, because that's where you change lives. Most people aren't going to play in college, even though you train some college athletes. Most people aren't going to play in the pros, but whether it's training or basketball, it's all about life and the connections and the people that you meet. And Jordan, I know you are a huge blessing to a lot of people. And I just want to say thank you for what you're doing, for what your wife's doing, the impact that you guys are making. And I can't wait to get out there this fall. I mean that when I get out to Indiana this fall to get out there and see you guys. It's going to be really, really special for me too. So I'm proud of you, brother. Can't wait to see you here in just another week or two. And it's going to be great. But thank you, Jordan, for all that you do as well.
PD, thank you so much. Again, CTA family, thanks for joining us. And we can't wait to see you on next week. Have a great day.